I forget how in San Jose you can see miles into the sky, unlike in LA. In grade school, I looked into the hills of Silicon Valley and debated with my friends whether they were real or painted and what was beyond them. I believe it was these hills which cultivated the imagination I so heavily rely upon now in my writing, both in my creative and academic work. Although since I've been back for the last few days in San Jose, I found it difficult to do work here despite the relative quiet I have, in contrast to being in Los Angeles. Over dinner, I asked my nephew how things have been, and in between the threads of new workout plans and attempts at resume building in his everyday life were the 6 shootings that happened in my neighborhood in the last 3 months. I'm arrested by 2 things: how violence is his quotidian, but more so how I've forgotten that this was mine as well. I am shocked by my shock. I ask him whether one of these murders was a murder-suicide I heard about in the beginning of the year. And he says to himself, "Oh, I guess that's 8 then," and continues to ask me whether the pasta he was having was a simple or complex carb. My father asked for a minute of my spare time, and I tore myself away from my work to go through some legal documents he needed help interpreting from English. "Does she want the property?" he asks. Going through the papers my mother served him over a year ago, all I can interpret is irreconcilable differences. And I see her signature, the same one that signed my permission slips and sick notes in grade school, and the attorneys she must have gone to during her workday, and how these attorneys had Vietnamese and Japanese names, and how they interpreted the whole process for her, and how she had to deliberate in secret for months and plan her strategy in the times that they didn't see each other. Maybe that's what was irreconcilable, how they didn't see each other much, and how they didn't see each other in the end anyway. I also imagine my father's desperation to keep the house, constituted of many reasons. The one I see the most is his investment in maintaining the normative kinship represented by the house. Leaving here meant moving into something smaller, signifying his body as unmarried man, as it now stated in the legal document. So does she want the property? But the 5 or 6 years I spent cultivating my imagination and arriving at reasons predicated upon race and gender and immigration and sexuality in school doesn't translate a word for these documents, not a single fucking word. Sorry, Dad, I don't know. You should see a lawyer. I don't see anything about the property in these. I don't understand these documents. You have to go see a lawyer. And then he responds quickly, "Oh, are the documents in Vietnamese? I'm sorry." And he takes the papers from me and inspects it once again. "No, Dad, they're not. No, they're not in Vietnamese. I just don't understand it. I don't get any of these words. You have to see a lawyer." "But they're in English. How could you not understand it?" "But it's not English." I tell him all that I know about the documents, that she doesn't indicate whether she wants the property or not, and he lets go unsatisfied, and I wonder what he thinks about my 4 years of a BA at UCLA and 2 years of an MA at the same institution if I can't even read English for him. I return to my room where I'm midway through Foucault's Discipline and Punish for my graduate seminar in Asian American literature and culture, and reading about the violence of visibility never felt so incongruent. I put my highlighter aside in this bare bedroom corner of my father's house where I grew up for 18 years, spent looking into the miles of sky and debating what lay into the hills and beyond them. By fitting the familiarity of these hills in the sky, I noticed their differences. Ear-splitting booms sear for miles into the San Jose sky. Nobody stops moving because it's either firecrackers or a gun wound, but I still need to catch my bus to work. My dad shuffles papers, and it's either the Vietnamese newspaper or the divorce papers or something different altogether, but he's always shuffling something. These sounds melt Foucault in front of me and reassemble into something else altogether. Pictures of the hills and the miles of sky, and the debates as to whether they were real or painted and what was beyond them. Thank you.